Is it
and
Sunday?
it feels like Sunday.
Oh my God. Well, it's a good thing we're here.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're here. Yep. Just, get back on the bandwagon. Another Sunday. This week was pretty interesting.
Holy, I don't even know what happened this week. I've been in such a whirlwind.
This week has been quite the experience. I got a
Holy.
yeah, I got a story
Yeah.
that doesn't involve you, but we'll talk about you too. Um, had a client decide to make a move because they were um trying to help out the father, right? The mother had passed. Now the father's, on his own. So the couple's like, we're gonna go and, move in with the father and make it all work. And they bought a property like out of town, far away, like a couple hours out of Toronto. And
Bancroft, maybe?
not Bancroft, but equally as far. And so they were coming to us to sell. So I was like dealing with them and giving them advice and trying to figure out what the strategy was going to be. And then they called me and said, let's meet. And by the time I got there, they said, okay, we actually bought a house and it's like the dream home. It was perfect, everything, every single way. And I'm like, oh, great, this is gonna be great for your dad. And I was explaining how they could make some modifications and stuff. And they said, well, unfortunately, the dad passed away because he was older. So I was like, oh man, like that's tough, right? So real estate is a funny business. You make plans and the universe laughs, right?
It's not only with real estate.
Yep.
But yes, that definitely seems to be the rule.
What will go wrong, what can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy's Law.
It seems that way. Man, closing the house this week was interesting.
It was. You did great, Darryl.
But we
You're a
got it
closer.
done. I'm a
You're a
closer, baby.
closer.
I don't buy stuff to just not close on it.
If
That's
you
for
want
damn
to, if
sure.
you want to close on a real estate transaction, have Darryl Frankfort on your side.
That is right.
He'll
I
find a
am a
way. He'll bring a
monster.
shovel. Let me tell you, he will,
Holy. Well, yeah, first so I can dig myself into a hole, and then
or
so
out.
I can, well, it's a lot harder to dig out.
Sure. I think it's a
But
figurative, you know,
yeah, well,
point of
it
view,
was,
but
it
that
was,
shovel, he'll bring a ladder. All right.
there you go. I'll bring a shovel and a
He'll
ladder.
bring a shovel and a ladder.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Good
Yeah,
for you,
no, it
man.
was crazy week. Closed the house, started construction, renovations. It is a lot of fun. You see, I've never been on this side of the renovation.
Ah,
I always used to be the general contractor.
yeah.
Now I
I'll be there
have.
on Wednesday.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
listen,
that's what you would do. Just don't,
no,
let's just be honest here, Daryl.
no, the thing about me when I was a general contractor is the reason I'm not a general contractor anymore is because I gave a shit. I cared too
Mhm,
much. I
mhm.
had women hugging me and crying because, they're over budget and their husband's yelling at them. And it made me sad. And I would give people like free stuff because I felt bad. But
Mhm.
like, I knew what I was doing and I was really good at it. And so now when I take my perspective in and I work with somebody else and they try and feed me like, some horse shit, I have a horse shit detector.
Don't you have the same thing going on with this renovation too? You're gonna have somebody's wife crying and hugging you, saying that they've gone over budget and their husband's mad at them. Isn't
Yeah.
Aren't
Yeah.
you in that
Like
same situation?
every millisecond. It's not good, TK.
Hey?
It is not good.
Oh, I know.
There is so much to do and not enough funds to go around. It's crazy. It's like every
It's
time you
okay.
go in, every time, it's like, oh, I didn't see this in the 1 hour visit that we had before buying it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't see this. Oh, did you? Darryl,
I
come
didn't
over
know
here.
that would be
Can you?
behind the wall.
Why did they do this? Cannot answer these questions, my love.
Yeah. 20%, add 20%, whatever your budget was. So we got a guest today.
We do, and he's sitting in the waiting room waiting.
Let's let him in.
I think that's a good idea.
Don't leave the guest
That is a
waiting.
great idea. Where did
Back
he go?
to the show.
Are you in a different shirt now?
I was too hot in that sweater, man. I gotta take it off.
Well, I don't know how that. I wonder if anybody else had a power failure.
Maybe I'm glad that you're moving to a better neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Right? You're in the rough part of town. So
I hope the power in my new house is as good as this one. Because there's
I think it's better. I think you're going to the right side of the tracks.
a lot of power usage going on here.
Take two.
What
Daryl lives in
the
a
heck?
poor neighborhood, right? So they have to, get their power from the grid and they steal it. And so every once in a while it goes off, right? So
Yeah, my neighbor unplugged the extension
cord.
cord I have running into his house.
Yeah, he's behind on his bills right now. So
He is.
Arjun, thank you for joining us. I saw your channel, and I think at the time what I was looking at is I was looking for people who were talking about like, experiences in Toronto, like where to go, how to live, what to expect when you move there, like things like that. I noticed that. And what I noticed was that there was actually a lot of realtors doing this.
Yeah.
But you were coming from a different perspective. You were coming from this perspective of like, you were actually that person who moved to Toronto, right? And had the storyline and everything else like that. So I thought that was going to be a much better perspective than the fake side of things, which is the realtors just trying to pretend like they know what they're talking about. And we're happy to have you on the show. You're from Arjun Approach. You got a YouTube channel and you've got some great content for people to check out. And we're here to chat today. How are you?
For sure. Very good. Feels weird to be on a Zoom call on a Sunday, I have to say. It feels like I'm at work. I'm like, no, I gotta go. Every time I hear this call is being recorded, I'm just like, this is a work meeting. I gotta go.
Yeah, we will try to make this as
painless as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
How are you guys?
You look ready to go. You don't look like it's Sunday morning. You look like you're ready to go.
I record at like 11:30 in the night on most times. So I feel like I've mastered the art of I'm good to go. I'm good to like record, but I'm dying at 11:30 in the night and I have to like work at like 8:30 in the morning. So I feel like it's something I'm used to at this point.
So you have a job as well as the YouTube fame?
Yeah. So I work on wealth management. So I work for like an ETF company to be specific. So I work on the marketing side of things. Been in financial services for the majority of my life, and I work in a fairly traditional finance side of things, and something that I enjoy. But I wanted to bring my creative side to in my own little baby, and just simplify things for people like myself when I was 18, 20, 24, trying to figure out how to how to figure out like how to save, how to budget, how to buy a house, and how to really just start early and get those things going.
Well, what I like about you, and this is something Daryl and I cannot relate to, right? You got balls of steel for saying, I'm going to leave any part of the world and come to another part of the world on my own and try to do things without having all the support systems. Like, even though Daryl and I will claim like we're all self-sufficient and creative, but we've got like family connections and we've got family incomes and family support, and
that make it easier.
If I were to crash and burn, like I got a place to go. Like there's all these things that I sometimes take for granted, and
and I do cover that in some of my videos as well, like those aspects that that do come on as a challenge. Like this is not the first time I've done this twice. So I was born and raised in India, and then I moved from as soon as I finished my undergrad, I moved to Ireland. So in Dublin, I lived there for like 4 years ish, and then I worked there for a while, and then things weren't panning out as I would have liked. Didn't feel like it was the long-term place. Visa restrictions on what kind of job I could take, and I was like, this is not sustainable. So I decided to move here. Things were a lot more flexible here, and very appreciative of that. And I had some family here. My brother just moved here a couple of years ago, so I moved here, and then I was like, okay, well, I got to start all over again. So you know.
That's what it was. Your brother was here.
Yeah, my brother was here. I mean, I've had some family here. It's a long story, but yeah, my brother moved here too. He went through similar struggles. Um, but yeah, when I was I'm 30 now, so I moved here when I was like 26, 25, and then I had to start all over again. Again get some school because nobody recognized my experience, and then I had to, um, even though I had a master's, I worked for like some of the big banks, but like nobody considered that. I also decided to switch to marketing, and so I had to kind of start from scratch, get a low paying job, and then kind of slowly work my way up. So I do cover those things on my channel too.
So when you're outside of the country and you're deciding where you might make your next move, like, like,
It's like a
well,
like it's just
Where's the most
you just-
expensive place that I'm gonna have the biggest
just-
struggle?
no, but is that it? Because like there must be a list of places that somehow you came up with, and then you had to whittle them down based on something. Like, give us a little bit of insight into the outside perspective of what people think about Toronto from
Yeah.
abroad, and two, like the decision making process and how you decide on Toronto versus New York, Chicago, LA,
Yeah.
San Fran,
Saskatoon,
Tokyo,
Yeah.
yeah, Saskatoon.
right? Why was Saskatoon not on the list? Why
Maybe
are
it
people moving
was.
there?
Man.
Cheaper.
I hope there's no people from Saskatoon watching my channel.
No, we love
So-
Saskatoon. Just start making things more interesting over there, so more people want to move there.
You may
Right?
have 100% of the population as followers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
three.
mean, I know. So I already did this once, right? So I moved to Ireland, and that was a bit less of a calculated move. Still just fresh out of undergrad. I want to go to Europe was my thought, not too well thought of, but like things were good. Like I got into a good school. I got a good scholarship. So, but you have to think it through from a lot of different perspectives. Like foremost, you have to think about how long do I want to be there? Like, do I plan to come back, or do I plan to stay for a while? There's a high chance that if you're spending like $40,000 on your education, or $80,000, or even $20,000, you want to recoup that money. So Canada is pretty good in the sense that they allow you to stay there long enough for you to kind of come to a conclusion whether like you want to be here or not, whether you're going to make your money back or not, or like at least build some sort of career. So when I moved to Ireland, I got my master's, and I did want to like start earning some money and see if this is a place I want to be. I mean, if you make that big move, leave your family behind, you at least want to like see if things were something you can if you can do this long term. And I was just dealing with so many like the first job I got, they were like, sorry, we have to take this back, we can't sponsor you. So that was the first job offer I ever got. So, and things like that, like you have to consider, like, is it am I even allowed to work before you think about like what are my career options. So Canada just makes it a little easier amongst some of the other countries. Like US was also an option, but US also has a fairly complex and a bit of a broken immigration system.
You pick the one country. I think Ireland's the only country where my family's from Ireland, is the only
Okay.
country where more Irish people live outside of Ireland than they do in Ireland.
Yeah.
That tells you something, right?
Yeah.
Is that people are leaving. There's no reason to stay, right? So it's kind of like
they've gotten a lot better, I have to say. When I went, like they were still slowly picking up as a destination, and I think they're really starting to build that reputation, and especially rubbing off from the loss that the UK was facing at the time. UK was making it more and more difficult for people to come and stay and study or work, and Ireland, I think, wanted to seize that opportunity.
they get the leftovers from London.
Yeah.
Basically, right? The leftovers from
Ireland
London.
has
People are
become
like, all right, well, where do I go next? I think they look the same over there, and it's also an island. Let's go
It's
check
so
those
close.
guys
It's
out.
like
They
20
got
quid to
castles.
fly. If you really want to like go to London, it's like 20 quid to
Yeah.
like,
But it's become a destination for vacation more, or for actually moving and
for
living?
moving and just like actually living there for like a 3 to 5 to 7 years of
I have
your
cousins
life.
who did it. School, post grad, stuff like that. They go back to Ireland. They work there. They do different things. Scotland.
Yeah.
And it's but no one stays. All my families come back. They've gone there who like have Irish descent, and then they come back because
It's a great place. I have to say, like I really enjoy it. I have very little complaints about like living there. I mean, the issues came with like just on this, you know, being able to work there, getting the kind of jobs I want. It is a small country, right? So your options are very limited in terms of the scope of opportunities you have. And as beautiful at that place as I found it, like you can eventually run out of things to do. It's the same kind of things that you kind of like after a while they start repeating. So I think if you're into,
What do you mean? The CN Tower, you can go up like every single week and it will be just as appealing as the week before. What about cost of living? So cost of living in Toronto, was this like a shock? Because Ireland's pretty expensive too.
Yeah. Oh, that was an expensive spot.
Yeah.
And they had a housing crisis at the time I was there. And I know like they have so many restrictions too with like how up they can go.
Mhm.
So limited land and housing was very expensive there.
They have
I
no
don't
tall
know.
buildings.
No, just like
They have
very
none.
small, like
Aren't they all Hobbit
pockets?
homes?
They go down, Daryl. They go down. They you go
That's right.
underground in
I
Ireland.
thought you meant
You
Leprechaun
walk down the
homes.
winding staircase to get into the lair.
You find a nice rock with some green moss on it, and you put
Yeah.
on a door, and
Yep.
you live in Ireland.
That's
Okay,
it.
so let's forget about Ireland because this is a Toronto real estate show, and
Mhm.
I don't know who cares about Ireland.
Well, that
Listen.
makes one of you.
TK does.
That makes one of us. So
Yeah.
but when you're moving from Ireland and you're thinking about like what was on the list, what were your options? What did you come up with? What was in line with Toronto?
I mean, other Canadian cities were part of, you know, like Vancouver was one. Montreal, for some reason, is not as accessible of an option for like some of the most obvious reasons why people even who grew up here don't move to Montreal. I guess that's.
You can say it. You can say it. It's
I know
it's
you
the
want me to
language.
say it. I know you want me to
say
say
it. You can say it. It's all right. We won't post this on YouTube or anything. That's a normal thing to say.
But was
That's-
it all just Canadian
that's a barrier.
cities you were looking at?
I mean, the second time around, yeah. The first time I was looking at,
Really?
you know, when I was moving to Ireland, I looked at, you know,
His brother was
Paris,
here.
I looked at the UK, I looked at Ireland, I looked at Canada. The first time I chose Ireland, and that's when I was like, I had more, you know, I was looking at more options. The second time it was a little bit more, like a bit more of a narrowed approach because I was just like, I'm gonna, you know, I qualify for my permanent residence. So I applied for that, did the whole process. So it was at that time I knew I wanted to come here.
Okay, that's a big. So that was another part, which I think is what, Daryl. I think this is what is the main thing in Toronto. It's like accessibility. It's like the immigration side of things, right? It's like which country can I go to? Well, I have a family member in Toronto who can sponsor me. Well, that's where I'm going to go, and it becomes just like the path of least resistance, right?
Yeah,
and so
there's a few other options too. I know, like you know, New Zealand is a popular destination. I think I don't really know how it is now, but like New Zealand, Australia, and depending on your career, like I think if you're in STEM, like the US makes it a little easier. But yeah, like Canada does make it a little easier for you to like actually come here. Like if like I would say like that should be the normal thought process, that if you're spending 60 grand on education or 50 grand on education, you wanna like stay there for a while, see if it's worth it or not. I know a lot of people that decide to go back, and I have chosen to go back, but at least you want to be able to stay there, try it out, and then make your own call rather than
according to 1.8 million people, all right,
yeah,
it's not that easy to get in.
Yeah. So
right?
again, I haven't read the fine print, but my guess is when's this article?
So this is just released 3 days ago. This was the increase in the backlog. So there's always a backlog. There's always applications. This is nothing new or COVID related, but there's $350,000 more backlog applications now compared
Since
to only like
COVID.
A few months ago. No, July.
Can you?
So July?
Yeah, no, it says here. It says,
yeah.
So $500,000 about like economic. So yeah, like I know when it comes to family and like secondary application, like, you know, if it's like economic immigrant, they're like, get here fast. Like I know they keep making that happen fast.
How much money do you have? Well, how much cash do you have on you?
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, I want to sponsor this, you know, my parents, they're like, okay, this is going to take 7 years. So
there's a Russian bot right now creating applications on the Canadian government website, just like apply. 100%.
Student and economic immigrant, I came as a worker, this federal skilled worker program, which is what it's called. Like, got it based on my age, language skills, career, education, job experience, like all of that. This is like, I got no like family stuff. So like for them, they have been trying to make it easy, like, as fast as possible.
Okay.
So
that's interesting actually to explain that then. So because Darryl and I, again, not the most knowledgeable people on immigration and who's coming in and all that kind of stuff. Neither one of us has ever immigrated. We haven't even left the neighborhoods we were born and raised in. Okay.
Oh, but I did. We had a beautiful lady who worked in our house, not as a nanny, just a cleaning lady from the Philippines for years when the kids were younger. And we helped her become a permanent resident, and we helped her get her kids in here. And it took fucking forever. And it cost a fortune.
how long was this, would you say?
How long ago was this?
Yeah.
Well, my daughter's like 15 years ago, I guess we started with her, and she just got her kids here like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah. It's not like people think that the process is easy. It's not easy. It's accessible. I would say, like, it's they don't, like, if you qualify, you qualify, but if you don't, you don't. Like, they will not let you in. Like, and you have to wait a long time to build that profile, build those years of, I don't know if it's the experience or, those number of years of, if you've lived here as a temporary resident. So they don't make it, like easy. They just,
the reason we're talking about this is because it's a Toronto real estate show, right? So we know the numbers. We know that, a third of the people who are coming to Canada are in Toronto, 40 something percent are coming to Ontario. These are big numbers overall. So we're talking about like the population growth, and the question that we always get in comments, sometimes we have in the YouTube comments and things like that, are people like, almost like kind of anti-immigration, where they think like the people coming are going to be like a drain on society, right? The rednecks, right? They're all like, oh, damn, immigrants coming in here taking my jobs.
And taking our jobs, rising up prices, taking all the inventory.
Right. And we're super pro immigration because Darryl, on the development side, obviously that's going to be growth. For me, I understand very clearly that we do not have enough skilled workers in Canada, and that it's going to kill our economy in the next 10 to 20 years unless we bring in people who are skilled.
The birth rate's plummeted.
If you think about it, like, even if you see it from like a, as a skeptic or like a negative, perspective, if you think about, like, why would the government do that? Like, why would they bring people in who don't have voting rights, who, may take your jobs, as you think? Like, why would they do that? They're doing that because there has to be a reason, right? Like if a government brings in immigrants, they're doing it because it makes sense. Like, it has to make economic sense. Like, that's the only reason they would do it. Because, like, it's not like they're getting more votes from all these people. They don't want to get voting rights for like 5 years.
Good point.
So yeah.
And they do everything for the votes. So really, right? If they're bringing them in, there's a bigger purpose. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy though? So they're bringing in all these people, and then all the ward councillors like don't want to add any homes in their districts. It's like,
don't come to my neighborhood.
It's crazy. You can come in, but don't live here.
Don't live here. Like, come on.
We don't want
the
you.
NIMBYism thing, I've been kind of, seeing that so much lately, in the US and like GTA. It's just becoming, explaining so many of the things. Like, I was just like, oh, just build more homes. And then you realize like why they're not being able to build homes, or, some of the big factors around that. And you're like, okay, it's like people don't want it, not in my backyard.
It's crazy. And people, like, I've been arguing with people on Twitter. People say that there's not a supply problem, okay? A demand problem. There's a demand problem. I don't know what the hell they mean. I guess because all the immigrants are coming in, they're creating fake
there's too much demand is what they're saying. So it's not that
they're creating
an undersupply. It's that there's an over demand, and we need to cool the demand side of things. Meanwhile, we're talking about, I just looked at the 2021 numbers. So it was 222,000 new Canadian PR cards January to August,
Right.
and about 115,000 of those people weren't in Canada already.
Weren't.
Right. So a huge amount were
115,000?
here already, but still, that's a lot of people. And I'm sure it's family members. There's different situations, whatever it was, but those people need places to live.
Yeah.
Right. And
And
unless
again,
there's
like
been
going back to the point of like the reason why people, a lot of people, not a blanket statement, but like a lot of people move here, they're thinking slightly in the long term. Like if you move to some other parts of the world where they don't let you make those calls whether you can live there long enough. So when people move here, they're like, okay, I'm gonna bring, if I like it here, if my kid likes it here, I'm gonna bring all my money, all my savings, and I'm gonna buy a house here. So the reason why people come here, they have that in mind that they're eventually gonna build a family, build a home and build their future. So the perspective of real estate coming here is different as compared to a tech worker going to San Francisco to work at Apple. They're like, I'm probably not gonna, live in San Francisco all my life. It's like even if I earn $300,000, I can barely afford anything. But I'm gonna get that experience. I'm gonna get to work at Apple. But I'd love to work there for 4 or 5 years and then move somewhere else where I can take my Apple experience and actually, afford something.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So there's more of a lifestyle in Toronto for people's families long term, right? Like the vision of Toronto is more like, I can be here, it's safe, it's nice culture, it's a beautiful city, I can earn good income, and then I'll be able to grow my family here.
Yeah, but then I would say like Canada, yeah, but I'm again, like I'm wondering if like Toronto is losing that reputation slowly but surely.
Why? Why do you say that?
Again, with the affordability within Toronto too, like just how it, even if people want to live in and buy a house in Toronto, like how many people can?
Right?
Like,
it's almost silly to think that all these people would choose Toronto when you've got all these other options. Like obviously Vancouver's not a good option. Montreal has got its own, obstacles.
But when you're coming from India, are you thinking, like, I don't know how it works in India. Do people own their homes in India? Do people rent in India? When you come here, are you dreaming of home ownership? Are you okay with renting?
I mean, I'd say like it's considered, it's considered I would say the perspective is not very different from here. Like if you can afford a home, you will afford a home. Rental would be
secondary
option. And if it's something, again, like if you're moving to another city to work, if you're moving from Delhi to Bombay and you want to work for a while, and then you would rent. And these cities aren't cheap at all. Like their prices are comparable to here.
Really?
In the millions.
I think everywhere in the world is very similar. I think Europe is the only and like New York City and like a few things where like renting becomes a much higher percentage of the population.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's ownership, right? Like
but again, is that happening because it's just becoming less and less accessible as it is in Toronto?
Yeah, it just started a long time ago.
Yeah, I imagine. And so it's just built into the culture now, which is a little bit different, where Canadians have always been historically, and our reputation has been like the Canadian dream. You got a home ownership, you got to get a mortgage, you got to pay that sucker down, don't have any debt, and it's like all this crazy, perspective that drives people insane. You got to get a college education, you got to go and take student loans, and you got to owe $150,000 so you can pay that off for the next 20 years. Right? Like it is backwards. And I think that's going to change. But what are the options? Like I was just trying to name another city that someone could go to other than Vancouver and Montreal. And the only one I could come up with was Ottawa. Have you guys been to Ottawa?
Yeah.
Oh God, Ottawa.
I go there pretty often.
Ottawa's horrible.
Ottawa's horrible.
Capital city. No one wants
to live in Washington. That's the first place they're gonna bomb. So no one wants to live near there. They don't put too much money into that place.
Seriously.
But the pricing in Ottawa is amazing. Like my wife's cousins bought a place in Ottawa, and I can't believe how little they paid. It's crazy.
How long ago was this? Because
it's probably a long time ago.
Yeah, Ottawa prices have gone up significantly.
But nowhere near Toronto. Yeah.
No, look, not Toronto prices, but But I'm guessing the salaries aren't the same either. Like what you would earn, like my guess is like 100K in Toronto would be like an 80K in Ottawa.
I don't know.
That's
I
a
feel like
wild
it should
guess.
be. I feel like it should be similar. I feel like, why would it be much different? If you've got a job for a company where you're going to be doing work for them, whatever the work is, maybe competition, stuff like that could drive incomes up here in Toronto. But for the most part, like it's not that far away. Like you should be able to get a pretty decent life and living in Ottawa, right? Well,
Yeah,
you're gonna go to London, Ontario.
yesterday is so funny. I was working on a video, and sometimes I look for stock videos, and I said the word, like I talked about London, Ontario for like 3 seconds. So I just needed like a 3 second footage for London, Ontario. Couldn't find it anywhere on the internet that I could use. I
Yeah.
had to cut it out of my video. I was like, "There's no footage of London, Ontario that
You
I
should
could
have
use."
got. You should have
Does
used the
it
footage of that kid getting dragged out of Western for not following the COVID mandates.
London doesn't even exist. It's just a made up.
That's
It's just a
London.
made up place. They just say it exists. Just
Oh, we had lots of fun in London back in the day. I'll tell you that. That was a
yeah.
party town when I was in.
Did you go to school
When
there?
I was university age,
Yeah, he didn't go to school there. They were
I didn't go
they
to
looked at him
school.
and they looked at him and said, "Sir, back of the line, back of the line."
No, I didn't get into Western. I tried, but I didn't get in. But I did
At least you
have
tried.
a lot of fun, and there's a lot of people that go to school in Western. So I mean, there's
Yeah.
people in London, but I think it's just if they didn't have the school, I don't think London would even be on the map.
Yeah. So
Pretty
what are the
crazy.
options? And I guess that's the point of this conversation is like, why is Toronto real estate so out of control? Why is it that, the market seems to always be going up? Why Darryl and I are very bullish. This
Yeah.
market's going to continue to grow and the prices are going
Yeah.
to continue to go up. Why? Because there's no other options to move. Where
Well,
is
and
somebody going to go?
and if you
Vancouver's
compare it-
underwater right now. Nobody's going to Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
And the
Think
more you
about that.
compare
Think
with
about how
like
that'll
in
change
other,
the perspective.
the more you compare with like other comparable cities outside of Canada, you're like, okay, it's actually not that expensive. If you compare with
Yeah.
some of the other cities, I look at the Seattle and California and New York and Boston. You're like, okay, no, I guess we're still a little bit more affordable.
That's where I was
And-
trying to lead the conversation at the beginning is like when you actually make that list and you
Yeah.
dig deep, maybe not even too deep, but you start scratching the surface, you recognize, well, if people are smart enough to use the currency exchange, you realize that it is way cheaper,
Yeah.
right? And then if you actually come here, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to all of those cities in the States, but
Yeah.
they're not like here.
In what way?
They just don't have that same feel. Like there's
New York
something
smells
about
bad.
Canada and Toronto that just feels different than like going to New York or
Yeah.
Feels
Florida or
cleaner.
It's so clean. Toronto, even
So
though we
clean.
complain, it is so clean
Yeah.
compared to New
The
York.
buildings just shine differently here.
Yeah.
I feel like the people are a little less ignorant here too. Like I just feel like there's this air of ignorance in the United States.
Mhm.
Across the
people.
board.
Well, I mean, nothing is
generally,
ever
just,
across the
yeah.
board, but like it's a general feeling. Like when I would
Yeah.
go to the States and I go into like any retail establishment or a restaurant, like I just like the service doesn't feel the same. The people don't, very general and broad statement, but like I don't get the same comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because I'm from here, because there's plenty of places I go where I feel like that, just not the
Right.
United States.
Right.
And I can't be just the only one who feels that, right? Like,
The currency exchange is a big one. So what Arjun was mentioning was people are saying, I'm going to bring my life savings. I'm going to have all the money that I've built up. Maybe I got to sell my real estate. I got to, cash in. I got to get money from family, whatever it is. And I'm going to bring it somewhere. Well, wouldn't you like a 30% increase in, for your dollar by exchanging into Canadian funds instead of US, right? So that has to be taken into consideration is like,
Yeah.
hold on, wait a second. So, because I'm sure people use US dollars across the world as that metric. So in
Yeah.
their head, they're like, I have 300,000 US dollars. And then also, or I can have 400,000 Canadian dollars. It's like, oh, or whatever the exchange is, right? So
which probably
it's-
doesn't even go as far as the 300,000 US in the States because everything's cheaper there,
Yeah.
but it feels
sure,
better.
They don't find that out for 5 years, right?
Not till you go to Buffalo to buy something.
Not to, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go to the outlet malls.
How many
So-
people live in Buffalo and work in like Niagara in the US? Like sorry, Niagara and like
In
Canada
Canada.
side, you know,
Yeah,
just,
there's border crossings, families, people get together,
yeah,
husband, wife, whatever. One works over Windsor, Detroit would be one,
yeah.
Buffalo, and I guess Niagara, right? Rochester, Kingston,
Kingston, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
those type of things. It exists.
I don't
I
know
mean, come on.
why they do it. I guess
Yeah.
maybe to go. I don't know why they. I guess
Well, if you're making US dollars, I got a guy who's making US dollars for a company. Can't remember where it is right now, but he's making a ton of money US dollars with his job living here in Canada, you know?
and I guess you could get paid more. I mean, God, if imagine if you
Yeah.
worked from home, and we'll segue into that now. But imagine you worked from home from Toronto in Silicon Valley, right? And you were
Yeah.
He works for a big company, and it's like the amount of income that he's getting for the comparable job here in Toronto, it's like 3 times as much, right? Just because of the value that he can bring the company, which is all remote. He used to fly down, and then since COVID, he doesn't have to fly anymore. It's all remote, Zoom calls, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
and so
ideal scenario, right?
yeah, and you've done a bunch of videos on work from home, and okay, we got an
Yeah.
article here. Nearly 80% of downtown Toronto office employees are still working from home, and there
Not this
are a
guy.
lot of debates though going on right now. Is work from home gonna stay? Work from home's gonna disappear? It's gonna be a hybrid. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be?
Nobody's making a call. I feel like everybody's just like waiting for someone to be the first person to, you know, they're just waiting for someone to take the first step.
But we have like Microsoft and didn't Facebook also
Yeah.
say, or Shopify, like some of these big tech companies said, if you're still efficient, what the hell do we care? You sit in a computer in our building, or you sit in a computer at your house. Most of
Yeah.
these guys probably aren't very supervised either. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Tech was like one of the first movers, like that industry just generally moved towards that. I don't know if like all of them have gone fully remote or like 100% optional, but like the only ones I can think of are like Twitter, Shopify. I know a few finance companies have done it, but like still the big banks, like they haven't made a call yet.
Keep extending it.
Yeah, they keep extending it. I'm in 2 days a week right now.
Mandatory.
In the office 2 days a week?
Yeah,
Mandatory?
kind of, yeah.
Good.
So-
You get
Like,
to
not
pick
good for
which
you, but
2 days?
good that they're able to, make that, like, enforce that, that they
Yeah.
because I think that's what's that? That's the hesitancy of the companies. Like, oh, well, we don't want to force people to have to come. It could be dangerous. It could be,
Yeah.
there could be some issues. They might, like that kind of stuff, that fear, I think
Yeah.
is going to hinder a lot of progress. Companies have to say like, look, this is your job. Here are the rules, work from home, work from here, work from both, whatever it is, but be
Yeah.
willing to enforce that. Otherwise there's so many like, industries right now that are being affected, especially with all the, talk of those other health issues and stuff like that. So
Yeah, but yeah, I
If
don't
you were
know.
in a position though that could be 100% work from home, would you? I mean, I guess a lot of people's argument is that they need the social interaction with the humans, right? But like, aren't there other opportunities outside of work to get the social
So
interaction with humans?
Yeah, that's what I like. What I, you open the internet and it's all about, working from home, working from this, and people are like, I love that interaction. I'm like, working from home, remote work during COVID and remote work during no COVID are two different things, right? Like I talked about this in my videos too. Like, no social interaction, yes, but people go out and see their friends and family after work. They don't get to do that. They don't get to sit at coffee shops. They don't get to go to a bar. They don't get to meet friends at a restaurant. They don't get to take a vacation and go see their family. I haven't seen my family in 2 years almost. My parents. So like that's draining, right? So that's a combination. So when people say that, that I haven't socialized, I miss that human interaction. It's not just the coworkers. I'm sure there's like some level to that as well, where you enjoy seeing your coworkers. And I actually have enjoyed like, going in a couple of days a week. It's good to see those folks, but it's not like, people don't see anybody if they work from home.
there's that
Right,
one
and
guy
so-
though that nobody wants to see anymore at the office,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
they're just like, Jim, I hate that guy, At least I don't have to see
Jim
Jim
can
anymore.
work from home.
Yeah, Jim can
all
work
week.
from home, right?
We're okay with it. You can have a raise too, Jim.
Tell him,
Just
yeah,
work
tell him
from
to stay home, mandatory. Yeah.
No, but like, do we believe that you can be more productive at the office with humans in person than you can like this?
I mean, I think that's to each their own. I know the sentiment that I've felt is, and personally, and like some people that I work with are like, at home, it's just you work your butt off, like with such little distractions. The amount of like chatting and let's go get a coffee, let's go get a drink is this just insane at the office. Maybe it's just like a springboard effect of like not having seen people, but like it's just so many distractions. It's insane.
I think
But
the
like at
At the
home, it's
collaboration.
office, you're saying? At the office, there's the
yeah,
distractions?
yeah. At
Mm.
home, like I'm just working. The moment I start, no distractions. Like so much, and like it's across the board where the productivity has for knowledge workers, people that work on their computers and the internet has just shot through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, my business went 100% from home.
Yeah,
And I mean, I do miss from time to time going out and seeing people, but I can do that, right? So
yeah. You
whenever
can
I'm feeling like I'm getting a little squirrely, I can go out. But like my day, so if I wake up at 4 in the morning, I can get work done and I can go back to sleep and then I can wake up whenever I do and I can get some more work done. And if I feel like, hanging out with the kids or my wife or going for lunch, I can work later, like I can work 24/7 if I want to, or 3 hours a day. Like it doesn't matter. And I can be
Yeah.
more productive in 3 hours a day than I used to be in 12 hours a day
Yeah,
because of things like you're saying, like what to drive from where I am to downtown or to the East End or the West End in the traffic and you can't be as productive as you are sitting at a desk. I mean, you can
yeah.
still be somewhat productive. And then the way home, it's like one meeting just ate up like 3 hours of productivity. And if that meeting wasn't that productive, it's like, what the hell is it? What's the point? And then on top of that, like TK and I have been playing around in VR lately. And like you
Right.
really do get a sense of immersion and presence, don't you? Like I really feel like I'm with you
We're
when
together
we're
doing whatever
this
it is
stuff.
we're
Wait,
doing. Yeah.
What do you mean you
And
guys have been playing around with VR, like the whole
virtual reality.
Quest
team
2.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah,
So we're doing
well,
everything.
but it's definitely it's helpful in like not having that feeling of squirreliness or loneliness and no interaction with other people.
Yeah.
And it's like it's gonna get crazy.
So the kids, we've talked about this before. We'll go a little bit on a tangent here, but I'll bring it back. The
Mhm.
kids today don't need to have the same social environment that we did as children.
Yeah.
They are getting the exact same thing, if not more, out of their online communication with their friends. It's crazy. And it's
Yeah.
all especially when it comes to video or VR or anything like that, because it's more interactive. The brain doesn't know the difference between them sitting next to their friend or them communicating in these virtual spaces with their friends.
Yeah.
And so that generation, as they grow older, are going to be into work from home situations with coworkers and stuff like that. It's going to feel the same way. And they're going to have the social element. They're going to have the collaboration. And that's where it's going. That's where it's
you
going.
It is going to go that way. Like, so there's only so long, fortunately or unfortunately, that current employers can hold on to this model. It has to give eventually, just because of the way people are growing up now. And that's just how 20s and 30-year-olds will be 10 years, 15 years down the line. So they can hold on to this model as long as possible, whether for good or bad, but it's going to change.
Jim has to retire. Jim has to move on with his crusty attitude, and the new generations will come in and they will say, why are we going to the office? Let's meet in the room. Let's
I don't even
down.
think they're going to go to an office, half these kids. Like
No,
they'll
the VR
never
office,
have a job.
the virtual office.
But most of them, not most of them, a ton of them will never, ever have a job. Like imagine, like take my son, for example, 15, he started a YouTube channel when he was 14. if he sticks with this for 4 or 5 years, maybe he gets a following enough to earn a living, like a starting salary at some kind of a company. Maybe he'll even make more than that and never work a day in his life, right? Like, or start a Shopify store, or like, who knows what? Like, I got a feeling like downtowns they're not going to be empty. They're just going to change so drastically. And I don't know why.
There's other reasons too, like coming down to, going back to Toronto real estate.
Nice.
Good idea.
It just it's a model that more and more people are questioning if it still works, right? People have been talking about it, but nobody changes it. Is the fact that incomes are going nowhere, but the prices just keep shooting up like crazy. And so, you can do everything right as we're supposed to by the book, and still not afford a home, right? And still not be able to just make ends meet or have like 2 kids, right? Dogs are, taking over the world because people are like, I can't afford a kid, or let alone 2. So when you think about like Toronto, you're like, even if I work downtown, like, how am I supposed to live here? Like, how am I supposed to make that work? And it's just, even if I can earn, like, you can earn 100K and still not earn a home here, like own a home here. So I think people are questioning that model as well, that like thinking from that perspective, that if I work remotely, I can like get the hell out and be somewhere where I can actually buy something. Right. Like, that's the end. At the end of the day, that's what people want to do. They want to have a house where they can have a family, majority of the people. And they want to go, they want to go to work, and they want to have a job, and then they want to like have a house. And people can't do that. And it's younger people, even like, I'm a millennial, but like Gen Zs are being edged out completely, unless they just get that money inherit, just they get that money from their parents. But the rest of them, no.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of
something has to change.
creativity. Yeah, there's a lot of creativity needed for somebody who's 20 years old right now to be able to get into the housing market.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why everybody's investing in in their crypto and
in the virtual world.
Yeah. And they're trying to they're like, maybe I can turn this $1,000 into a down payment.
I was just talking to someone the other day, and I was trying to, we were talking about different investments and different things like that. And he's like, my son's made $70,000 with his crypto fund over the last year. And I was just like, he's like 20, maybe 3 or something, it's like, oh my gosh. Like,
it's
hard. There's all kinds of ways to make money now that, I mean, Arjun's 30 and he probably doesn't even know some of the stuff that these kids are into right now that they're coming up with, right? Well, I'm 45. I'm so far removed from everything. I was saying to my wife last night, like, I must be old because I'm really thinking things are getting weird right now, right? Like, things are getting just off the, but do you know what I mean? Like, things are going to change so quickly, so drastically with these kids that we're not even going to know what happened. They're going to start questioning all these stupid things we've been doing for so long and just turn them on their head quickly. Right.
Yeah. Isn't that a every generation thing though? Like,
the difference is technology now is way more advanced and grows way quicker. And how many centibillionaires were there when I was a kid? 0. How many billionaires even were there? Like 10 maybe? Like, it is so different. People are so powerful in this tech. Like, nobody even knows what it's actually doing, even the people that create it.
Yeah.
And inflation's actually the motivator behind this, right? Like, there is some benefits to the inflationary state that we're in right now, right? Because having the drive to be able to do these things, like looking at a condo or looking at a house back in 1970 that was $70,000, right? And you knew that you could buy it and probably get it paid off within 5 or 10 years or something like that. Was that really motivating you to innovate?
Stay at home with the
right?
kids.
Yeah, exactly. Was that really motivating you to innovate? When you're 20 years old and you're looking at a 300 square foot condo that costs $550,000 downtown that you got to pay off for the next 25 years because your salary's only going to be $60,000 when you're done paying for your $120,000 university education, right? You need to be motivated. You're like, man, I better figure something out here, right? And that's actually going to create more innovation and more invention to what the areas that we need them the most are. And I think the easiest way for people to do it is at home on a computer. I mean, it's just.
And content creators are the fastest growing small business type right
Yeah.
now.
You know, the guy,
Sure.
is it Daniel Mack, who goes around asking people who are there driving the cars,
Yeah.
what do you do for a living? Right.
Yeah.
And like, you know, every once in a while, it's not the traditional stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I
Everyone's
got an
also,
OnlyFans.
yeah.
I'm into social media, you know, I sell crypto, and it's just like, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah, or I work for some YouTube sports channel. I saw a girl in like a Ferrari Spider, and she worked for
Yeah.
what's that sports something Barstool Sports on
Yeah.
YouTube. But
Crazy.
it's crazy and it's amazing all at the same time. And then if you add crypto and that whole blockchain and that whole universe into the mix, and what we're all as content creators going to be able to start taking control of our actual content and not have to rely on, you know, getting 1,000 subs and 1 million billion views to make 8 cents in ad revenue, right?
Yeah. That's also happening, right? Like,
It's happening.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
there's
go
a
ahead, Daryl.
there is a porn coin out now where porn producers can now take control. They don't have to upload onto a tube. And I mean, okay, it's porn, but like it's content. And there has been years of content creators that have got screwed literally out of all the money that everybody's making there. And so these things, whether it's porn, whether it's YouTube videos, whether it's any other kind of content, once you can control it, like you don't even have to work so hard on it either, right? Now, if you're getting 100% of the revenue from that or 80% of the revenue instead of a, a fraction of a percentage of the revenue, like imagine what that's going to do to people and the motivating, like the motivation to do it, right? Like being in complete control of your destiny.
Yeah, there's certain people, right? So there was a Joe Rogan podcast with Jewel a few weeks back. So she was explaining how you know her contract was heavily weighted on the
Right.
back end on the sales, so there was less control on her productivity. Floyd Mayweather, right, bought himself out of the top rank contract for $750,000 and has gone on to make $1 billion or more, you know, promoting for himself. Like there's all those little inspirational stories where artists or athletes or content people or whatever will be like, hey, why do I need to go to Sony? Why do I need to go to YouTube? Why do I need to go to these huge mega company? I know they're going to offer me something now, but they just want to own me, and that they're actually making way more money than I'll ever make. And then NFTs, you know, Daryl's explained that, you know, is one option, or, you know, other platforms, you know, with the blockchain that is going to give people the control over their content. And, you know, they will now be the producers, right?
I read an article about people in the Philippines who, instead of working, are playing like Axie Infinity, a video game where you earn crypto, and they're making more money at that than a job. Like, imagine, honestly, forget about that. Like, there's all these
now you can afford
making
Toronto real estate,
millions of dollars playing video games.
That's what it is. You will
But
now be able to
yeah.
afford Toronto real estate because of these little things that just never existed before.
But why would you want to live in Toronto?
Because
Why wouldn't you
it's
want to live in
familiar.
some sprawling hills
the
and
same
lakes?
reasons. It's easy to come here, right? All the same reasons that Arjun gave. It's easy to come here. It's familiar. You might know somebody, right? It's clean.
It's not easy to come
safe.
here. It's easy to stay here.
It's easy to stay here. And once you
you're
do
here.
come here, easier than other places.
Yeah.
Right. So you can lay your roots.
Yeah.
It's cleaner than some of the other major cities. And on the grand scheme of things, it's actually cheaper and more affordable to live here than it is in the other major cities. And people want cities because of the exact reason that Arjun said in Dublin. Eventually, you run out of things to do. Right? You've done it all.
Even here.
Yeah. So why not go to a big city, and I can then have entertainment and exposure, culture, events, travel, tourism opportunities. There's more things to do in the big cities. The cities will never go out of style. I don't care where the jobs are or how they're working. Cities will always be where people want to be. That's it.
Especially when it's you know, just, you know, a couple or a single person, or like, you know, when you want to be around all those things, like, you know, priorities change, I guess, when you have like bigger families. But I know a couple of people that, you know, have had remote jobs, and they got the hell out of the city as soon as they got a chance, and they're contemplating coming back.
Population of Yellowknife is a key indicator in
Oh,
the
nice.
fact that somebody working remotely is not going to be moving far away from civilization just because they can,
Funny
right?
you mentioned this Yellowknife. I was literally Googling Yellowknife for the first time yesterday. And I, was
Yeah.
I put myself, I'm a city person, right? I grew up in one of the most populated cities on earth. So I've only lived in cities. And like I was doing a street map thing of Yellowknife just yesterday.
Nice.
And I
Streets in
just
Yellowknife?
and I just, yeah, it's just funny you mentioned that.
Two.
And it just gave me like, made my stomach like I just felt uncomfortable just watching it. And it was a nice summer day. And I was like, okay, this still looks nice. But I'm seeing all these people. I'm like, why are you living there?
Yeah.
So many places on earth to live. There has to be a very solid reason as to why people choose to live in Yellowknife.
There's not many of
Or,
them,
yeah.
right? There's not many of them. I'm pretty sure they got dial-up internet still probably, but
I think most of the people I've been talking to on Twitter should be forced to move to Yellowknife. So let's talk about your last video quickly because we're running out of time here.
Oh, wow.
Millions quit. Should you? So, I mean, this kind of is all part and parcel to what we're talking about, isn't it? This great resignation that people are saying is or isn't happening here in Canada. What is the great resignation happening here?
I mean,
Are
the
people
numbers,
quitting in droves?
some people say that it's like the great reshuffling. I think I read that term in one or two articles where they're saying that, people are not quitting and leaving the workforce. They're just doing something different altogether. So, I mean, people are not like the workforce is not going to shrink dramatically, at least not in the long term.
Benjamin Tal had his last economic update, I think a week ago or within the last week, and he showed job growth. And it's like crazy how many more jobs we've added in the higher income job sectors. And the only one that was down was minimum wage jobs, like the ones that are low income, young people, not homeowners, people who are unlikely to be or likely to be renting. And that it was like this huge gains in all those other areas that were more, which is why the housing market is still doing well. So what if people are resigning, it's most likely from the jobs that are not that appealing, right?
Or they're
are these like
resigning to
new
take a
jobs?
new job, right?
Are
What was
these new
that?
jobs or are these like job vacancies?
This is job growth. So it's just the
Okay.
level of active jobs that are currently being filled and where
Yeah.
those stand compared to years prior. And you could see that the growth currently in the higher sector jobs is higher than ever. That there's
Yeah.
I think they did since March 2020, and so that they had this huge scale of job like gains and losses, and the losses or the very small gains were all in the lower income jobs. And
Right.
that actually, when you went up the scale for the higher income jobs, they were up like 42%. One of them was, right? So that's why housing has been so easy for people to afford still, that the jobs are out there. So resignation or not, nobody's leaving the high paying jobs, like you said, and taking their life to the streets. They're
Yeah.
going somewhere that's better for them. And the
And
jobs that are
anybody,
being left are the low paying ones.
yeah, and anybody with skills these days and brains has to recognize their value today. And a lot of people I think are going in and saying like, "Hey, time for a raise, bud.
Yeah.
I got
And
a
that's
lot
why
of
it's
options
happening.
right now."
These industries impacted the most. They're seeing significant change in the wages, right? Signing bonuses and, for like casual jobs, people are getting signing bonuses for $1,000, $3,000, and salaries are going up from $15 to $21, and like that. That's a good thing. I mean, I think it's good that it's happening, and I hope that continues happening.
A double-edged sword because as the businesses are paying those people more, they're raising their prices for all of us to buy them. And it's
Yeah.
the inflationary spiral that everybody's
We'll
talking
find
about,
out
right?
now. We'll find out now
Here-
because like this
here-
has been a hypothesis for so long and a reason for not increasing wages. So we'll find out in the long term now that if the wages go up by $6 or $4 an hour, where is that going to go 4 years from now? Like at what point is it going to be too expensive? I'm actually looking forward to that because this has been a valid or not valid excuse for a long time.
Let's end the show with this. We're gonna do a survey right now. Okay. You can be in one of two camps: camp permanent inflation or camp transitory inflation. Arjun, you go first.
No, you guys go first.
I'm in camp transitory. I think
Transitory
that things will cool back down, and that
Okay.
the price gains in, like, you know, oil and gas, natural resources, and the manufacturing supply issues and all that type of stuff. Once demand starts to level out, I figure that these prices will all come back down to reality, because not that much has changed. The population hasn't grown that much, and I don't believe that there's that much more money out there that will be spent driving prices up over the next 2-3 years.
I think transitory is a very it's a very broad term, and it's being used very loosely. I think all of these factors that we're seeing raising prices now are definitely not from natural market causes, right? They're definitely pandemic induced, but they are going to take a hell of a time to work out, and they're going to feel permanent for a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, like lumber prices will come down, and prices will come down, and other prices will go up, and wages will go up, and housing prices in Toronto are definitely going up. Like, there's a ton of stuff that's going to keep going up and up and up for a long time. And yes, maybe we will stabilize at some point, but we will not go back to how it was 2 years ago with anything, because you know what? Once they start making all these microchips that we're lacking in everything, right? We're going to need more. They will not fulfill demand because the technology is increasing, and the amount of EVs are increasing, and the amount of laptops and phones and computers and smart fridges and everything with all of these things is going to only increase over time. So they're going to try and meet today's demand with all these new factories. But what about tomorrow's demand and next week's demand and next year's demand?
Darryl, can you give us a straight answer? Are you in camp permanent or camp transitory?
I think it's just so fucking different now than we can even expect, and nobody could possibly know what's going on. So I would say a hybrid of permanence. Well, but there's no answer to this.
You just have to pick one. You just have to pick one.
Permanent.
Permanent. Arjun?
I'm transitory.
Transitory. All right.
Yeah.
There you heard
The transitories have it.
Arjun, thank you very much. Let's just do a little shameless plug here. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a YouTube channel called Arjun Approach, and I like to cover things around personal finance, life in Canada, and kind of combine those topics wherever I can. I've had some, a pretty eventful 20s, so I like to compile all of that into, a channel that is full of life lessons. So come follow me over there, and I talk a decent amount about Toronto real estate too. I'm invested in this market, and there's more stories to come on that front. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show today. We really appreciate
sure.
it, and we'll catch up with you again, I guess, in the new year.